r/NoSleep. Posted by u/hazy_8. Blue Ridge has rules and you have to follow them or else. My name is Eli Walker. I'm 23 and I've just started working as a search and rescue/park ranger for Blue Ridge National Park. This was the job I always wanted to be in nature, disconnected from the worries of city life, not having to slave away at a fast food restaurant or some retail park for the rest of my life. Nature has always been a safe space for me, and you know what they say, if you love your job you never work a day in your life. But I fear I don't have much time left. I'll tell you why. It started on the first day of the job. I and 3 recruits to the Blue Ridge team had us do orientation. We all ran through the basics of what we were expected to do and what areas we would be assigned to. Each of us had different sectors of the park we had to take care of and help out at. Then the head ranger Molly said something a little odd. She said if I were you guys I wouldn't take any notice of the stupid talk about her. We all looked at each other concerned. One of the recruit rangers, Mikey, piped up, and who exactly is she? The head ranger, catching on that she'd said too much, she shut it down with an, "Oh, don't mind me, I was just talking about some old rumor trying to spook you. Anyway, it's about time you partnered up for your areas except Walker." I had to work alone for a couple of weeks until they found a replacement partner for me. The person I was supposed to work with, James B. or something, he went MIA. Nobody's heard from him. They assumed he just quit or left without letting them know. We were given our equipment and a rifle, pistol and hunting knife with a tactical belt, and jumped in a van that would take us to our watchtowers, our new homes, well, for this season anyway. I was the furthest away, almost a 2-hour drive. I was slowly falling asleep when I saw my tower in the distance. The driver parked and opened the side door. I got out and waited for my legs to adjust to standing after sitting for so long. The driver told me it was a 1.2-mile hike through the trees from here. I thanked him and took off towards the tower. When I finally got to the bottom of the winding steel steps, the sun was just setting. I quickly ran up the steel steps and used my key to open the cabin at the top. When I walked in, I looked around the room. There were 2 beds at the back corner, a door that led to a bathroom, some lockers up against the wall, and 2 desks underneath a small skylight. The cabin looked cozy and homely. I started putting all my gear away in my lockers in the bathroom and claimed the desk furthest from the door. While going through the desk, I found a memo pad that looked untouched. I put it on the top of my desk and finished unpacking. I sat on my bed and looked out the window, bored because it was too late and dark to go out and check around outside, so I grabbed the notepad off the desk to doodle on and saw that the pad had a message scratched into the paper. The message was faintly carved into the paper, looked like it had been done with a fingernail. I squinted to try to read it and I ran my finger over the page to see if I could make out what it said. I grabbed a pencil and shaded over the paper to see what was scratched into it. Said the 5 rules of Blue Ridge. I was curious, so I decided to entertain the idea and tried to see if there was any more scratched into the page. It didn't look like it at first. Then turned over the page and felt a 1 carved into the page, and it said, "Remember, you and your partner are the only people you work with." I thought it was strange, but I kept reading. 2 said, "If you hear her crying, run." I started to feel uneasy. My hand trembled a bit. Was this the same her the head ranger mentioned earlier? I just turned the page and kept reading. 3 said, "Don't let her see you. If you do, it's too late." By this point I was spinning around the room looking in the corners. I felt ill and an ominous feeling came over me. My hand was fully shaking and I slammed the memo pad on the desk and flipped the page, nearly tearing it. 4 If you hear her moving around outside the tower, don't move. I stumbled back from the desk and fell onto my bed. I knew it wasn't real. There's no way it was real. I decided to try to calm down. Thinking about it logically, the chances are it's some ghost story to try to scare the new guy. Yeah, that's what I chalked it up to, and laughed at how dumb I felt. I jumped into bed and went to sleep early to get ready for my first day on the job, but I couldn't get that notepad out of my head. Was it a joke? I woke up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat. I could hear the rain pounding off the roof of the den. As if it was scripted, I heard cries of what sounded almost human. I jumped up ready to help, but then I remembered the memo pad. What if it's her, that thing? I could hear the screams getting closer and closer till it sounded like it was right outside. I put my boots and gear on. I remembered that I never actually finished that stupid list, so I walked over, still listening to the screams, picked up the pad, and my blood ran cold when I read what it said. 5 If you hear a little girl's voice calling your name, it's too late for you. PS Don't try to attack her, it only makes her more aggressive. Signed, James Broke. This was signed by my partner, the guy who went MIA. He wrote this. I stood frozen in place. What did he mean by "it's too late"? Was this the reason he's missing? How can this even be real? No, it's not real. It's some dumb prank to scare me, and honestly I had enough. It's not funny. I picked up the radio and tried to get someone from the main cabin to answer. I finally got Molly on the radio and started to give her a piece of my mind. She sounded confused, then concerned, and asked me when the screaming stopped. In the heat of the moment I didn't notice it had stopped. Something felt off. Molly spoke up and asked me if I was still there. I didn't respond. I was trying not to make any noise and listen. Nothing. I asked Molly what happened to James, who went MIA. She piped up and told me that they didn't know but they had their suspicions that she got to him and that he was dead. Then calmly said to me, "Oh well, guess you can ask me more questions if you make it till the morning," and just like that the frequency went dead. I was alone and they didn't care. I now had to accept the gravity of my situation, that I was in real danger. This brings us to the present. I'm now sitting waiting for either death or morning with my back to the cabin door, rifle in hand with the screams still roaring on. I'll update if I make it. r/NoSleep. Posted by u/iscythe, Fallen. Don't run out of gas on the back roads. Once I got my driver's license, instead of telling me the usual keep your eyes on the road and drive the speed limit, Father drove the tenet into my head with his usual fervor. It was a miracle I even got to drive his old baby blue Chevy, but I had needed a way to drive to the church after school since Father got tired of doing it himself. At least I didn't have to keep asking John for rides home after football games. After a particularly gruesome victory against our rivals, Central Christian, John had invited me to grab some food afterwards. I was hesitant to accept at first, but everyone was just begging me to come with, and besides, I had said no every other time too. I begrudgingly accepted, grabbing a bite to eat at the feed mill, the old diner that had become the high school hangout after dances and games. John and I sat at a booth with Kenny and Colton, two other players I hadn't got to know well. While they regaled each other with stories of who was dating who and so from Central had a fight with so from Freighton, I sat with my eyes darting from person to person, happy to finally have a night out. That moment dissipated once I read my watch, 10:37. My face fell as John's eyes met mine, obviously concerned. "Sorry guys, I have to get going. Father's gonna kill me," I uttered, scrambling to my feet. As I turned to leave, John grabbed my wrist gently, prompting me to turn back around. "Come on Rod, you don't have to go. So what if your dad gets mad? You're already late, might as well stick it out. Besides, we never get to see you." "Yeah Rod, you never hang with us after games," Kenny piped up. The fear began to well up in my eyes, an ice-cold mist that passed through my whole body leaving goosebumps in its wake. I wanted to stay so bad, but I couldn't. I just couldn't. "I'm really sorry guys, but I have to go. It's too late," I managed to squeak out before turning and walking out of the diner, unable to look at them any longer. My fear was already bad enough, I didn't need to feel their obvious disappointment guiding me any longer. As I walked outside and climbed into the truck, the cool autumn air met me, chilling my already freezing body. I began to shiver as I put the key in the ignition and put the truck into gear, driving out of the parking lot and into the cold expanse of night. Before long, the metal roofs and street lamps were replaced with crumbling asphalt and sagging oaks, only illuminated by my dim halogen headlights. Every so often, turns would bring me into winding cornfields that seemed to stretch on for eternity until I was brought back into the familiar Midwestern groves. While my gas light hadn't come on yet, I figured it was only a matter of time until that familiar orange indicator flashed on my dashboard. Knowing that I was already late, I had failed to stop for gas, and I still had a long way to go. What if I ran out of gas here? What if my brakes failed? What if my engine cut out? These anxious thoughts were hot on my breath as I breathed faster and faster, fearing both going home and the consequences of not returning. These fears only seemed to grow as I spotted the first sign of architecture on this untraveled county road. The building was still small in my windshield, a Gothic Midwestern type with chipped white shingles and rotted wood framing. Only as I got closer did I spot a faded burgundy cross, hanging off ever so slightly from what must have been decades of neglect and disrepair. Maybe the building used to be a site of worship, but it had obviously been abandoned long ago. Just above the cracking doorframe was a broken circular window, most likely looking into an entryway of some sort. I strained to look inside, alarmed when I realized two glassy eyes were staring back at me. I was only brought back to reality when a loud bang made me jump in my seat as all light in the cab cut and the engine began to sputter. No, no, no. Not now. Please, God, not now. I started uttering to myself as the truck began slowing until coming to a stop just after the former church. My fears were immeasurable now, dominating my every thought as Father's words kept coming back to me. "Don't ever run out of gas on the back roads, boy." It wasn't like I could call for help either. Father never let me own a phone, after all. Any attempt to get the truck started back up was useless. I was stuck. Turning away from the dash, my eyes slowly found their way back to that window, but the eyes were nowhere to be found. Where had they gone? Was I just going crazy imagining them? Then, I heard a knock on my passenger window. Swiveling around, I saw a tall, black figure. His features were completely obscured by a black cloak and hood, but I could see his eyes clear as day. Inhuman, they stared through me, full of hunger and malice. Even without seeing his face, I knew I was in danger. I yanked on the driver door handle, kicking it open with startling force as I clambered out and bolted for the church. I ran every step of the way, my feet kicking up dry dirt and dead grass as I ran to the rotting doorframe. In that doorframe, the only thing I could register was a pair of glassy eyes.